streaming into this area from every conceivable direction.
There were two planes. I saw the second one hit.
You could see it in everybody's eye.
We're just getting word now. One of the two planes was hijacked after takeoff from Boston. This is
two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
We now have reports of a fire at the Pentagon. A fire at the Pentagon being reported this morning.
In the lobby, the chiefs were trying to run the largest rescue operation any of them had ever seen. With next to no information coming in from outside.
You got a phone that's working?
We didn't have a clue of what was going on outside our lobby. Just like a beehive, that place. Everybody's working on the phone, everybody's working on the radio. Everybody's getting information, setting guys up, getting reports. And just trying to get this thing under control.
At one point, there was even a rumor. A third plane was heading in. You got to remember, at that moment, anything seemed possible.
Authority, police, and the military. And I need that done now.
On top of everything else, just talking to the guys in the stairwells was tough.
Fort Davis to Battalion 7.
The tower's internal communication setup had been knocked out by the crash. That left fire department radios.
Suddenly, you have hundreds and hundreds of firefighters that have radios. It seems to become more and more difficult.
OEM 1 to base. Mr. I didn't get with your location.
We had one guy from the WTC who was trying frantically to reach anyone on the elevators.
69 car. Anyone in this car? Is there anyone in this car?
And going through the list.
Is there anyone in this car?
And there's about 98 elevators in the World Trade Center.
This is Tower 1. This is Tower 1.
Some of the outlying companies didn't know what Tower 1 was and Tower 2. So we're just trying to help them out by writing it on the desk to make it obvious to people.
It was just before 10 o'clock. A little over an hour since the first plane hit. Firefighters from all over the city were inside those towers. Hundreds of them.
situation that started bad just gets worse and worse and totally collapsed.
What happened?
If you're just joining us this morning, you're in for a horrific surprise.
The scene here is just one right out of one of the movies you would see in Hollywood. People walking around with cell phones in tears, holding their heads, looking up at what's left of the World Trade Center and just shaking their heads in disbelief.
Command post, Tower 1, all units, evacuate the building. Command post to all units. World Trade Center, we took a hit on that last explosion. Command post is being evacuated at this time.
No answer.
So we walked across the bridge back towards the Trade Center. Still trying to call on the radio and not getting through. Just trying to figure out what took place here and then try to gain some control.
Chief Pfeiffer's priority was to set up a new command post and find his men. Right now, they were coming down the stairs.
Staging, let's move! Come on, officers!
Basically, everybody was standing right in the shadow of Tower 1. It was 10:28 in the morning.
And then comes that sound again. And I don't even have time to think at that point. I just run.
The most critical things in a major operation like this is to have information. We didn't have a lot of information coming in. We didn't receive any reports on what was seen from the helicopters. It was impossible to know how much damage was done on the upper floors, whether the stairwells were intact or not. Matter of fact, what you saw on TV, we didn't have that information.
People watching on TV certainly had more knowledge of what was happening 100 floors above us than we did in the lobby. Certainly without any information, without critical information coming in, the cumulative effect of the information coming in, it's very difficult to make informed and critical decisions without that information. And it didn't exist that day. Our communication systems were down. Our building suppression systems were down. The elevators. We had no video capability throughout the entire operation.
343 firemen and 23 police officers died in the attack. The chiefs of the New York police and fire departments at the time fielded questions today about the rivalry between their agencies and the lack of adequate communications between them.
Went down, the cell sites were lost. You know, I had communications with the mayor on the way to the scene. When I got there, they were gone. As the cell sites dropped, so did the communications. We operated on Nextel, the Nextel dropped. Then they came back up. You know, and the thing with the walkie-talkies, listen, I'm not an expert, but I can tell you this. Go to any of the communications companies out there. Go to the best. Go to Motorola. Go to the best there is. Show me one radio. Show me one radio that they will guarantee you this radio will go through that metal. It'll go through the debris. It'll go through the dust. You will have 100% communications 100% of the time. There is none. There is none.
Several commissioners wanted to know if New York emergency
radios all called.
As 911 clearly shows, the huge problem with an emergency of this scale was the communications between incident commanders and various crews responding to the scene. While all agencies have their own ways of staying in touch with each other, the equipment varies from one department to another. This creates a need for a system that provides a link between the different types of communication devices used by different agencies. The California National Guard believes it has a solution to help authorities when the next event occurs. For the last year and a half, the Cal Guard has been working with various vendors to come up with a solution that allows voice, data, and television to work together as a mobile first responder command station known as the Incident Commander's Command Control Communications Unit, or simply IC4U. We like to think of the IC4U as the emergency eyes and ears on the ground. It comes equipped with a global positioning system, high-speed internet capabilities, a web-based collaboration server, video surveillance, wireless network connectivity, a weather station, video teleconferencing capabilities, and satellite television connections to see how commercial news networks are covering the story. This technology has a reach-back capability to multiple locations and provides almost real-time intelligence and information.
And JFHQ, are you
The IC4U has the ability to add any type of radio or voice equipment and is able to connect to all military first responder frequencies, be it VHF, HF, and UHF, and has a 700 megahertz range. The IC4U is designed to add any additional type of equipment that is deemed necessary. It also can work in the worst possible scenario and can be deployed rapidly via sling load with a CH-47 or loaded to a C-130 aircraft. While no one can predict the next terrorist attack or natural disaster, the IC4U adds another dimension in preparedness for first response.
800 megahertz until we have the frequencies for the CLEMARs for